Hi,
Yay.
Karen. It's so great to have you joining me again tonight for Ladies' Night. Dr. Rob is not here, so we are holding down the fort. So you and I kind of talked about the topic of grief, and so I thought we'd just do a little bit about grief. And I was mentioning before you joined the paradox of like grief, but also joy, and you can be literally experiencing those at the same moment. It's just kind of crazy. So, and how in addiction, you know, we want to tamp down all emotions because we don't want to feel unpleasant things. So, in your work with clients, like I suspect that is often a factor. So, thoughts on that?
Mhm. Yeah, it's a factor. I think one, I was certified in grief and loss because I chose to long time ago, and I see it in any addictive pattern of behavior. A client, I see it with spouses and partners. And the first thing that happens, there's a few stages of grief and loss that occur. So you can have somebody that passes away. These are the same stages that happens when somebody is found out, when they're somebody's been caught doing something, or somebody else has to give up an addictive pattern of behavior because they've used it for some reason. So there was a lady named Kubler-Ross a long time ago that wrote on the topic of grief and loss and actually came up with the stages. So what I was hoping to do is present a couple of different ways, like it could be a person that has passed away, it could be a spouse or partner that right now is grieving, is going through what has happened in my life, and just look at a couple of the stages and see how they fit and how they fit in. Also, with a client that may be working on, or an addict that may be working on, how do I change? So, the first thing that occurs is what we call shock. I mean, there's literally shock and disbelief. I can't believe this is happening. It's really not happening. I want to tell myself, if I'm a spouse or partner, no, this is not real. I'll wake up tomorrow and find out it's not real. And then I'm in denial at that point because here I have evidence of something and I'm hurt. The client too is going to be in denial because they don't want to own what's been going on. When someone passes away, the first thing that happens is that shock when you get that phone call or you get that letter that comes in, and the disbelief and denial go together. The next phase that occurs is usually bargaining, where if Tammy, if it's me losing you, I would be saying, like, she's so good. Why her? Why not me? I'm the person that's been an addict. I'm the person that's done these things. And I want to bargain my way out of it. And a person that's in their addiction will try to bargain their way out by saying, well, it's not really like that. And we can change this really fast and I can do better and everything will be fine. And we'll bargain down to some agreement. The spouse or partner, they're not into bargaining mode. They want it to be different. They have been hurt. They have been abused. Everything is, they don't know what to trust. They don't know who to trust, not just their spouse or partner, but other human beings. Who do I tell this to? And those phases go pretty much step by step. Doesn't mean you can't go back to them in the cycle, but where you really get stuck when it comes into, it becomes depression and it becomes anger. You can call it anger, you can call it frustration, you can call it whatever. But those two sections within the stages of grief and loss, it's going to happen. Anger can first be, I can be angry as the betrayed spouse. I am angry. I believed everything you said. Who are you? You're not the person that I married, or you're not the person that I've loved, and I don't know who you are. Or it can be that I'm angry because I've lost somebody. I've lost my best friend. I've lost somebody that means everything to me, and I'm angry. Why did it happen? The client is angry because they're starting to look at, this is what I've done. This is how I've hurt somebody. And they're looking inside as well. And that's some of the things we work on is what's underneath all of this? What's underneath the behavior that you have? so that we can try to start putting pieces together to figure out how it got here. Now, I don't need to say this to anybody that's already been through it, but if you've already had this occur and then it comes back later on, because people can relapse, and people in any addiction is, I don't want to go through this again. I don't want to have that pain. And still I'm in that cycle. So they'll get depressed. That's why we call it a roller coaster. Is I love you and I hate you, and I love you and I hate you, and I love you and I hate you. And because I'm hurt so bad and I don't know how to get out of it. We'll always talk about how people need support. Well, the addict needs support to figure out what to do, put the truth out there so that he or she can be working on it to start seeing what's happened in their world and why they keep trying to act out in some way. And again, for any addiction, the spouse or partner or the family is in a place of, where do I go now? Is my life over with? You have broken me. I've seen that so many times. I have been broken and I can't find myself. I don't even know who I am anymore. And that's where we always talk about support. You have to have someone that you can talk to out loud, someone that you can say how you feel, or that if you don't know how to feel, how to help you feel, to let this process start to occur. Now, further down the road in grief and loss, when it comes to losing someone, they always talk about the acceptance part. Well, I'm going to be a little different on this. And I did talk to people years ago, and I said, I don't know how to get to acceptance. Like, I just accept, just like if I'm an addict, I just surrender. I don't even know what that looks like. So I started realizing that, and I asked permission from the Kubler-Ross team, is I said, what if I just make check boxes? Like today, I was able to find some joy today. Today, the next day is, okay, I got through a holiday and I have friends around me. Today, my husband, partner, spouse actually started talking like they were understanding and they could put meaning to it. And it wasn't about me. It's not about me. Many times when we're talking about sex addiction, relationship addiction, things like that, spouses and partners think they've done something wrong. It must be me. And that's where they go to first. And then it comes out as anger. And can there ever really be acceptance? There can be some forgiveness. There can be slowly having acceptance, but the client or the addict has to change and show up. They have to be in their integrity. They have to be telling the truth over and over and over again. And that means seeing their therapist, going to meetings, making sure they're following aftercare plans, and hopefully the couple can be together with one another through some stages of this. Does that make sense where I'm coming from with combining them all?
Mm-hmm.
So I see that at 3 different levels, whether you're the receiver of the pain or you have to stand there and watch that pain and while you're going through your own. And we see it every day. So I know there's a lot of you out there that have that hurt that's going on. Doesn't mean it's going away today. And you'll have memories tomorrow. And then you'll have other memories, and some will be good ones, and some will be really angry type of memories that will come up. That's why we suggest everybody gets support for themselves. You can't do this alone, whether you're the addict or whether you're the partner or the spouse. You need to have people that can help you.
So this came up. My dad passed away on Thanksgiving, and so I was with family, kids and grandkids, and I'm experiencing joy and celebrating the birthday of our daughter that happened to fall on Thanksgiving. And then this happened. Now it was, imminent, and we knew it, but yeah, all of these mixed emotions of like, but here's the gratitude, that recovery. I can show up, I can be present, I have these amazing memories. And, he wasn't perfect, I wasn't perfect, but I know my dad loved me and I know I loved him. And it was like, I was doing okay. And then I looked at my phone, and in my favorites, I saw my dad's number and I just lost it again, and I was like, oh, that's just the process of understanding that this is. But I so appreciated what you said about community too. It's like we heal in community, and and being able to be with other people, and sharing, the funny stories and the and the pain and all of that is, how we process through that. I would not want to, do this alone. And so when I hear betrayed partners, particularly, and addicts too, but when like all they're doing is reading a book, they're not, they're not connecting with other people. I think the prognosis is poor because, that's really where the healing happens. But for me to be able to show up as an adult and feel my feelings, the good and the, I mean, like there's a heart heavy, a heavy heart, that goes with this. But, I'm also really fortunate that, I've had a good dad in my life. Lots of people don't. So like there's all of these, messages, the good and the bad and the hard and the, it's just like, it's kind of crazy. So, but I can also show up and be in this moment. I'm trying to be supportive of other people, because, I'm not the only one. So trying to be part of the solution and not part of the problem is, but it's challenging. So I appreciate you sharing on this. So, okay, everybody, we're going to get to questions. So, okay. The first question, if you can follow along, I'm going to put it in answer because I think you won't be able to see it because you joined after that one, but I'm not 100%. So it's in answered if you're following. I know that my husband's maladaptive coping skills in relation to his addiction have nothing to do with me, and I am able to see that no matter who he was with in any relationship would have ended this way. This is all really true. Is it healthy psychologically for me to be able to see this? Or is this an unhealthy mechanism on my part? I know we don't want to be our spouse's therapist, but having this viewpoint helps me not to take it personally. Is this okay? I want to go, yes, this is what you have to, I mean, this is incredibly healthy. Like Karen was just saying, how it's easy, for partners to, take on responsibility that something you did or didn't do would cause this. No, you understanding his brokenness, and that you can love him regardless of this. And you're right, regardless of who he would have been with, even if a spouse is gaslighting and saying, well, if you had only done, no, that's just blame shifting. So incredibly healthy. That's a very good resilient place for you to be, in my opinion. Karen, thoughts?
Oh, I think you're exactly right. And that's the only way to be. We don't have, I always say, put your arm out, and at the end of your hand that's as much control as we have. That's reality. And some people have things that have gone on in their life. Maybe this person that's talking is things in her life that, or his life, that may have been traumatic, that maybe has gone through other issues that this reminds her of or him of. And that only stacks the deck a little bit more because it will bring up those other memories of things. And it's working with a therapist or somebody that can help so that you can go through that. But yes, it's not about you. It's not. I rarely ever have run across anybody that, everybody in a relationship, there's going to be some type of disagreements. There's going to be some type of something that happens because we're human beings. But most of the time, what we see is that patterns of behavior for addictions, they started a long time ago. And it's a way of coping with, escaping from, running away from whatever it is that they need to get out and talk about and do something about. But they don't want to ask for help. Sometimes we'll talk to the men that we have and say, you were raised to not ask for help. Gosh, you were raised, you couldn't cry. Men don't show emotions. Well, that was a way long time ago, and that's not true. And I'm fortunate enough that I get to see it every day and see that people can drop that wall and they can actually learn how to feel and express it at that point in time. And the same thing with the partners and spouses is that let the wall come down, be vulnerable, and be safe with who you're talking to, and let it start to come out. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're right. Maladaptive coping mechanisms, they only work for a certain period of time and then they don't. So,
Yeah.
okay. So I put the next one in the answer too. How does this SA change a man's brain and personality so profoundly? I lost a man I've loved since 17. D-Day was 6 years ago, 16 relapses, failed poly, came out by antisocial and avoidant personality disorder, acted out illegally. Not same man 20 years ago, solely changed, angry, abusive, drinking, porn addiction since 12. I found more lies, serious relapse, and told his therapist he was angry, no remorse, mean. Walked away saying, I've turned you off like a light switch. 40 years gone. He's in 12 step and one on one for 6 years, checking boxes, grieving loss. Yeah.
It is, really is. I mean, those are the words that tell you. You look at the fact that this person also had mental health issues. To have diagnosis like that, the mental health issues don't always show up as clearly. It may take years. It may take, they're really good at pushing behaviors down and things like that, but it's a mental health issue that's occurring with these type of personality disorders and things like that. And so it's, again, that's not uncommon too, that no one is taught or seen, that no one identifies it early enough to try to help people. We can't give a pill to somebody and just say, okay, they're antisocial. Well, that's going to work. Give a pill. No, they have to be taught. And we can only go so far with them, but the continued therapy and the practice over and over and over again, I've seen people change. And personality disorders are the hardest ones to work with. And this says avoidant personality disorder, which means I'm scared to be connected. I don't want to be connected, but something is a mental health issue here. And I'm sorry that this had to go on, and you add drinking and you add all the other addictions to it. And there you go.
So, and I'm going to go back to what we said earlier, like it's blame shifting. I turned you off like a light switch. So, like that is just that's an easy, I am not going to feel anything. I'm turning you off. And there you are left, like you said, grieving the loss. And it's a real loss. I just sent somebody, Debbie McCrae did two webinars. I'll see if I can find the link and put it in the chat. But she did a 2-series webinar on grieving losses. And she also had some information, and you can rewatch this, but she had some practical steps on like doing these things, like journaling is one of those as well. So the loss is real, and grieving the loss of the relationship, but grieving the loss of the man that you knew he could be, and that he wasn't willing to do that. And so yes, and look at just in that little paragraph all of his maladaptive coping mechanisms. So unless yes, the checking off boxes. But and you mentioned relapses, and I'm, with all due respect, like I don't think he might have been abstinent for a period of time, but he was never in recovery to really relapse. So he might have gone periods of time where he was abstinent, but he didn't ever, from what you're sharing, I'm making this up, do the work that he needed to do to address those underlying issues and to get the help that he needed to be different. So whether it was you or somebody else, like the last one, this is who he is and who he's choosing to be. And it's terribly sad when an addict chooses to live in the act of addiction rather than get help that is so readily available, to do life differently. So, but I'm glad you're here. Please lean into, we've got betrayed partner support, lots of it besides the webinars, but the drop-in groups as well. So please lean into all of that. We've got a betrayed partner work group starting again in January. And even if the relationship is over, it doesn't mean the betrayal, automatically leaves. So please, join that as well. So.
And remember, as Tami always says, there is hope. It may not come in the box we're expecting it to come in, but there always is hope that something can be different, whether it's the two people are back together again, or whether the two people need to be apart to find joy and happiness in their life and maybe stay in recovery and do all the things to change it. But there's hope.
Yeah. And I mean, you're here. You are doing what you need to do to take care of you. So there is hope for you. So, what he chooses to do, unfortunately, I hope he gets it. I always, always hope that somebody goes, oh, wait, now I get it. Now I understand. But it isn't, addiction, steals too many lives. So, but you're here. So the next question, I have a question. I've been in recovery for 8 years. I find I have no friends my age anymore. I'm 35 and all my friends are in their 50s. I want to say, well, 50-year-olds rock, but I remember that. So no, I'm just kidding. So how important is it that I have friends my own age, or is that important at all developmentally? Thanks for holding this webinar on relationship healing. So that's a really interesting question. And I kind of go did you just mature so much because you've done the work in recovery? Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
It's interesting. I would want to know to be in recovery and still going to meetings and groups and things like that is another place to find friends that are your age. I mean, we work with people that are 18 and have gone up to 79 to 80 years old. So the addiction's out there and recovery is out there. My biggest memory in recovery for me was a woman I was a lot younger. She had been in recovery for 28 years. But what I did was I learned from her. Tried to soak in everything that I could so people don't have to be the same age. And I love it that you're looking for friends. Go back to some meetings if you're not going. Try out some different meetings that you can connect with. Recovery is recovery, and it doesn't make a difference which age you are. We many times will have different people that are different ages. And the greatest thing is when you hear somebody that's older that says to somebody that's a lot younger, like, I only wish that I had this chance when I was 25 years old, so that I didn't have to go through my whole life and have so much carnage left behind with it. Or that a young man will say, I never had a father figure. I never had anybody like that. And here we are together. So it's that connection again. It doesn't matter what the age is. It's that people are going through the same kind of thing, and they don't judge one another. It doesn't matter. So that's what I'm used to seeing.
And so that reminded me when I first got into recovery, there was a young people's meeting, and we did social stuff together. I mean, I lived in Michigan. We went cross country skiing in the winter. We did everything. It was like we were out and about and had fun and, beach parties and everything. And so, but I had a whole bunch of friends, but I also remembered that there were a few people that were a little bit older than in their 20s, and they still fit. Like, we loved them. They were, so they were young minded. It was always for young minded people. So I appreciated that. But I also think, now that you are in recovery for 8 years, yay, what are hobbies or interests that you haven't taken up that have nothing to do with, with the 12 steps and things? Like, join some of those things, and you'll find other people of all ages that are, like-minded as well. So I think having like a diverse friends circle is a lot of fun when it's all skewed. Having some younger people may be useful to you too, but I think if you're doing the things that you like and the people are meaningful to you, great.
There's all kinds of clubs and things that people can join, whether it's a book reading club or riding a bike club or hiking club, whatever it is, and that you always have all different ages and ranges of people. So we talk about in the recovery circle, if you've ever done any type of 12-step work, there's a 3-circle plan, there's a sobriety plan, and the outer circle is about what things did I used to do that I've stopped doing that I like to do? Why did the addiction get in the way? And how can I find those things again? So it's unlimitless to what you can find, and you'll still find people of different ages. But
Mhm,
it's open up, take the chance, and
mhm,
connect with people.
mhm, mhm. But I'm really glad you're not all alone, that you're saying, "I have no friends." That would be heartbreaking. So you have friends, so that's
Yeah.
great. So the next question, been married for 21 years. After first year, I started seeing red flags. Our marriage has been on and off, or has been an off and on cat and mouse game. The years of trauma and betrayal over the last 20 years have made me shut down completely to the point that I just feel numb. Is this a normal emotion? I think I've learned over time to protect myself. As I go through therapy, will I start to feel real emotions again?
Yes, you will. But it's the opening up. We have to, what I call it many times is there's an inside job that's going on. And that if I stay hunkered down and I don't let myself feel because I'm afraid, then that's exactly why you keep working with people so that you deserve to have fun. You deserve to have joy. You deserve to have all of those things, but you also have to believe that you deserve it and that you can have normal emotions and feelings. I'm not even sure what is normal. You know, it's crying, laughing, having fun. Some people grow up not knowing what that is. And so it's learning it. But I understand the part that you've learned over time to protect yourself. And that is important because there's people out there that are not okay. But it's building your trust and your self-esteem that you deserve to be happy and you deserve to have the good things in life. And letting yourself, I suggest some affirmations to yourself and some journaling to yourself so that you can start getting the feelings back.
I was thinking journaling too, because I was like, oh, I bet you've protected yourself, but I bet there's some strong and probably negative emotions. And it's just so much nicer, particularly for women. We've been told it's not okay to be angry and, all of this. We're supposed to always be nice. Well, guess what? Like there's real grief, there's real loss, there's real anger, and all of that. So, um, Harriet Hunter did a great webinar. I'll go see if I can find that on journaling. She did a podcast with Dr. Rob too, which is on sex, love, and addiction. And like, there's real research on how helpful journaling is just to get things out and be able to start processing things. If you aren't working with a qualified trauma specialist, I suspect that part of the bottling up is just like not dealing with the trauma, of all of that. So working with somebody who can help you, pick at those layers, not rip all the band-aids off, but to be able to get to some of those in a supportive environment could be really, help for you as well. So, but the problem with bottling all of that up is you miss, like you said, you're numbed out. So you're missing what Karen was talking about, the joy and the happiness and all of those things. You're also missing the pain, but in addiction, I hear you as a betrayed partner, but in addiction, that's exactly what happens to us is we completely numb out, protecting ourselves from the negative emotions. We miss all the feelings. And so there, I honor that you're asking. I hope that you pursue getting the support and help to do to do that work. So, oh, I've been separated from my essay for the last 18 months in-house due to us co-parenting two small kiddos for the last 11 months. No disclosure yet. We are both working individual recovery and I've been able to detach with love. But as I've progressed in my healing and accepting what is, it's hard to see a path to reconnection if I want this. How does that happen? And when I feel I don't even know who he is, and he's been in active addiction for 17, all 17 years together, how do I authentically show up while waiting for formal therapeutic disclosure? And hang on, there's more. I gotta go find it. Oh, here it is. And how do I authentically show up while waiting for formal disclosure and live together in a home separated? So awkward at times, and in a lot of ways would be easier if we didn't, but just not an option at this point with the kids finally having peace. So, oh, that's a lot.
And that's a lot. Um, I'm wondering if this person, if they're seeing therapists and working. They're both working individual recovery. So I'm assuming that's at least 12 step. Are they working individually with a therapist of some type to help process through what's going on here? Full disclosure, formal disclosure sometimes takes time to happen. But I'm not seeing that part. What do you think, Tammy?
Well, I don't, but like, let's assume that that is the case. So, so I do think, you know, uh, it feels like I would want to know what the time frame is, and like this feels untenable, and I could totally see it going like this is just not working and it's just not worth the effort and all of that. So getting more um compartmentalized, both of you kind of going like, you know, we're roommates and we're dealing with the kids, and you know, so that opportunity for reconnection. So I would personally strongly encourage that you each both talk to your qualified professionals and say, you know, can we have an anticipated time frame? If his therapist, or if he's saying his therapist isn't, you know, isn't saying yet, then I would say I would like to speak to your therapist, or I'd like my therapist and your, you know, I'd like to have that, because I want to know what the holdup is and when we can really anticipate this. So if there's a legitimate reason why the therapist is holding off, I mean, that there could be something. You know, but it would be helpful for you to have that and know. So thoughts?
I agree with you, Tammy. I think as I reread it, it looks like there's been plenty of time in here to make process, and maybe it's time for the two therapists to have a conversation with one another. That can happen sometimes, where they talk about, okay, this is when we're going to be ready. Because if you do a full disclosure process, the addict is prepared with truth, so that they're not just putting things out there. We do things called timelines. So you look at your life, so you remember things that they can truly say that to the best of my memory, I did this and this and this and this. The partner, the betrayed partner or spouse, they work with their therapist on how to prepare some questions, how to prepare to receive this information, what do I do to get ready for that? But it's been 18 months, and the last 11 months has already gone on with no disclosure. So I suggest I'd reach out to what Tammy said, to the therapist, and say, when will we be ready? And find out what's going on, and maybe have them speak to one another, not to share detailed information, but to find out what they're both seeing. It could be that somebody's still fragile and they can't do it, or something else is going on. But it's I really appreciate the fact that whoever you are, you're still waiting and you're still wanting it to be different. So I'd reach out and talk to the therapist.
Yeah, yeah. Right. You're getting a plan. Yeah. Like, so here's another thought. This is a tangent, but you know, sometimes I hear people that have been in therapeutic separation in house or away, but it's been years, and like 2, 3 years, and there is no plan. So just having a plan or check boxes, these are the things that we're looking for to be able to move to the next step. I think is helpful. I mean, the mental, I mean, we've been through COVID. So like, let's talk about the same things and, you know, just existing. And I don't believe that's what life is supposed to be. So getting a plan for here's what we're waiting for. Here's the expected time frame, whatever it is, you know, so that you at least see some forward movement, you know, could be helpful. Cause, you know, I do hear, you know, we're disconnecting. So, and you may or may not, you know, not every relationship survives this, but many do. So but it would be good to know what you're looking for in order to make that happen. So
Exactly.
so so the next one is sad. How do I grieve and let go of a dead marriage? My husband of 23 years is still in denial and refuses to do effective recovery work. We have 2 children who are teenagers and the others are adults. Is it unhealthy to stay in a dead marriage?
I think the word dead says a lot. If if you feel that way and he's still not willing to do anything to change or be different, then that's where we talk about to make sure that there's options. There could be, okay, I'm moving on, or we're going to have a therapeutic separation until you do something to show me why I should still be here. And there's children involved, and I see there's some that are adults and some that are not. And that's also another reason. Some people, like Tammy said, some people don't change. Some people do not want to give up their addiction. They'll drink themselves to death before they give it up. But to stay in a dead marriage is, you're the person that needs to get some help to help you see what can your future look like, whether it's going to be together with one another, or whether there's another door to open and to walk through, and to help your children get to the other side.
Yeah, and I've shared this before. I'm married to a wonderful man now, but the first one, I learned a lot of life lessons. How's that? But at some point I was like, what am I modeling for my child? And this is just a personal thing. So take what you need and leave the rest. I am not, making any judgment. I know lots of people who navigate staying in a relationship with an active addict, and they find their healthy boundaries and have those set so that so that the addict's behavior, lack of recovery, whatever, is not directly impacting them. So they have their life, and for finances, or I mean, it's often finances. I guess that's probably, but sometimes, like the previous one, it's raising two children. So you stay in a relationship that you go, okay, we're raising these children, and this is the life I'm choosing, but here's my boundaries. If you're going to remain here, this is what we're, this is what we need to do. But and if that works for you, fantastic. Again, no judgment. But for many people, that isn't how they can navigate. It's tough. Like in-house separations are really challenging. I think they're a lot harder than, physically distancing, because you're still seeing that person all the time, and, navigating that. You can do it, and lots of people do. So, but ultimately, what do you visualize? I say this a lot. What do you visualize for your life a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? And, do you see that if you stay in this situation just as it is, that you have found a path, for taking care of you, and, and modeling healthy boundaries, to the kiddos too. So,
And I think the word
yeah,
boundaries, Tammy, is exactly the perfect word to be using here, because boundaries can be in the same house, boundaries can be whether people are separated or not, but that's the children are also hurting in some way and wondering, like, what's going to happen now? And this looks like it's been going on for a long time. So they may need some help too, because they're teenagers. And teenagers, we know teenagers, I love them. They're rebels. They're finding their way in their life. And I love that part. So I know that you're taking care of your kids the best you can. And but boundaries, you deserve to be happy. Another person is in an addictive pattern of behavior for reasons that you may not even know why, unless he's getting help.
yeah. Well, and when you say he refuses to do it, well,
Yep.
unfortunately, like, and I know it's addiction. I mean, I get this on so many levels. I always say, if I could wave a magic wand and you could see how good your life can be in recovery, everyone would be going like, I want some of that, but we hold on to our addictive patterns like we're like we have any control, like we don't. Our addiction is totally in control of us, so it's a false, lots of things in addiction are false, but the false sense of I'm in control of this and you're not going to tell me what to do. Your addiction is telling you what to do. You're doing these things
Right.
to hurt yourself and everyone else, despite all these negative consequences. So, but it's why addiction continues to thrive, and it waits patiently. We get a daily reprieve.
It's always there trying to tap on your shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to someone earlier today, and they were, doing like they were doing recovery, and then as soon as things got better, they quit. And I was like, that that is addiction. Like, and that is addicts. Oh, I'm doing better, so I'm going to quit doing all the things that really helped me and go back to the same things that didn't work for me. And then I'm going to go, what happened? The insanity of that is just, but that is addiction, denial,
Mhm.
and all that. So
And sometimes when I hear people tell me, well, I haven't really done anything, not really acted out like before, and it's been, for 3 months. Well, congratulations, that's good. But what's changed inside? And I try to remind all the people that I see or work with in any way is an addict comes from their brain. Their brain is thought, do, thought, do. It's not a decision-making process to act out. Go to your heart. You can pause and drop to your heart. And that's where the real answer is. Do I want to do this? Do I want to hurt that person again? So thought, want to go act out? Check it out with your heart real quick, because that's where the truth is. And that's what changes. So I just wanted to add that part.
yeah, yeah. Well, and it's thought from the old lizard part of our brains. It's
Yeah.
this is the executive. This is where we actually think. So it's like do regardless, So okay, so there's two questions that are very similar. So one is there always a mental health issue underlying when there is addiction? And is there always a mental health issue? Yeah, I guess it's the same thing. So to me, well, go ahead, please, you share first.
For any addictive pattern of behavior, the most accepted, well-known pattern of behavior, just because over time, right, seems to be, we used to have people that were alcoholics, and they were so shamed if they were an alcoholic. But now it's like everybody's happy and supportive and all of those kind of things. But you still need to get to why am I pouring alcohol over myself to numb out? What's the real reason that I'm doing it? And what can I do differently? It's just, I'm not going to say, substance abuse falls under the category of addiction. Sex addiction behaviors don't always fall under that. But that's one of the things that a good therapist is going to try to do is see you're making a choice every day to do the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. That's definition of an addict. Why are you doing this? And what can you change? What has you angry? What has you sad? Why are you numbing out? Because the numbing out only lasts a very short period of time. And like Dr. David Fawcett talks all the time, is then do we have other things? Are chemicals playing into this? So now we're using like meth or using other substances, and now they've started to merge or fuse with the other behaviors we have. So if I'm going to do one, I've got to do both. And we see a lot of that happening that goes on and on. And then you're starting to deal with other stuff. So is there depression, anxiety? Those are very common to have, but is it enough to continue to act out? Those things can be treated. The mental health issues I was referring to earlier had to do with deep personality disorders, and that takes longer to get help from. And usually there's not a pill that you can just make somebody different. If somebody's bipolar, yes, they have medications that they have to work with. But if I have a personality disorder, I'm a narcissist, I don't have a pill. I have to retrain and be retrained by somebody that can help me so that I recognize when I'm going into that mode and what to do to come out of it. So
Well,
hopefully,
and every addict is a narcissist in active addiction. We are, and even in early recovery, because we are all focused on ourselves and on getting to, it's like somebody said, all he cares about is himself. I'm going to flip off a switch and, make you irrelevant. Like, so that is part of, so a narcissistic personality disorder is a lot deeper. Dr. Rob has talked about that specifically. I own, like, as a person in recovery, my brain thinks different. I still have those thoughts. My husband and daughter have talked about, like they'll look at me and I go, I know, but like that's still, those are the patterns, and I have the tools to use, and I have the support to do things differently. And I know now, like sometimes I should go check this out. Like I was going to send text today and I asked my husband, is this a good choice? And he said, you should really modify it, and he was right. And I did. And, things went better. But, it's like one of those things where like first thought wrong is how we learn in early recovery. Like my first thought isn't always wrong anymore. But now I also have that, like that compass of going like, oh, I'm probably not doing true north. I need to, I probably need to get, a gauge on that. So I have a mental health issue. I have tools to use. It's not a pill, but I have tools to use to counteract it. I can live a very good life. I can do, most things right. And I have a program that teaches me how to make amends when I muff something up. So, but understanding it from a disease perspective, that somebody's brain is, yeah, I get this a lot from partners. They're like, why is he doing? Well, you will never, because you have I use normal brain, whatever that is, but like your brain, you would never think of doing these things that are so hurtful. And this is why you need support from betrayed partners, and an addict needs support from other addicts, because that's how, we're sitting in meetings and go, yep, like the crazier the story, like somebody's, telling, we all go, unfortunately, we get it, and it doesn't make any sense, but we can learn to go, yep, that would be a really bad idea. Now I know I would not choose to do that. It can be a choice. So yeah, I honestly think looking at it as, and Karen talked about understanding the why. I know lots of people that know the why and still act out. So to me, and Dr. Rob has talked about this too, the how, because she said, and how do you stop those triggers? How do you address it when you're angry? Escaping to your acting out and numbing out, not a good choice. So what do you need to do? How or what, are really helpful questions. You can address the why, and those can be, layers, and you can have that understanding, but addressing the triggers that are the, like the acting out doesn't happen the moment, the moment you do whatever it is. It happened when you gave yourself permission 2 days ago, when the boss looked at you funny, or when your partner might have been thinking about like how expensive the groceries are today, but it had a look on their face, and it's about you. It isn't. So it really is understanding those patterns so that we can interrupt the pattern, not just go act out.
Interrupt the pattern and take a healthy action.
Yes.
So it's, instead of going an unhealthy way and acting out, is notice it, notice the trigger, notice whatever is going on, and then make a choice. We as addicts, we have a choice whether we continue this behavior or not. So it's not like, we can't do it. It's hard to choose it. But once you start practicing that choice that you have, people change. We get to see it every day, and people can change. And none of us are perfect or anything like that, but you do have a choice to be sober and clean today, and have a choice to choose life. So
yes. So the next one, I've been dealing with husband's infidelities for almost 10 years. We've tried some therapy, but this time I feel it has to be the final one. I have decided not to go into the pain again and stop. But it's hard because I feel guilty to leave him if he is a sick person. But in the other hand, I am sure the infidelities will continue, and I try not to have any expectations or illusions. I want to stop being vigilant of his WhatsApp messages. I feel weak when I am in front of him. I start having doubts about the decision I've taken to separate and to get well. Oh, please talk about this, because I hear this all the time too. So what are your thoughts?
Well, the part about monitoring and watching and standing there and hoping that something's going to be different, and you're looking at, there's still pain in there. There's still a question in there. Is he still doing it? Is he not doing it? I need to look at his WhatsApp app to see if he is. There's got to be some place in which you have to make a decision of, you can't control it. You can control yourself. You can set boundaries that you need to have. which we've been talking about this whole time. Um, so a decision to separate and to get well, it sounds like you're making the choice so you don't have to live in pain every single day. And that's that's what you need to do to have a good life. But make sure you have help with doing it. What do you think, Tammy?
Well, there's a lot, so yes, he's a broken person. Let's take sick out of it. He's a broken person, but he's not willing to pick up the super glue. He's not willing to do what he needs to do to get help. Because we've tried some therapy, but if he really, really wanted to get help, I mean, we have a treatment program with guys that get help. Dr. Rob does an expert consultation. There are qualified professionals using a generalist therapist, and you didn't say this, so I'm making this up, but using a generalist therapist who doesn't get these issues is not going to be successful. And unfortunately, we know lots of clients who come to our treatment program who have been lying to their therapists for years, minimizing and gaslighting. So I'm curious about your guilt, because I feel guilty to leave him. And I would love to have you explore that with your qualified professional, because what I hear is you're valuing him more than you're taking care of you. And we talked about healthy boundaries a few minutes ago. So your healthy boundaries are, I value me, and this is what I need, not want, physically, emotionally, financially, and spiritually. What do you need to be just to be a whole human being, in this, on this planet? And if your husband is unwilling, I mean, infidelities put your health at risk. Do you know how many partners, have to get STD tests and find out that their health is at risk because of, infidelities? I mean, like, there's so much finances. Some of them have driven the finances into the ground because they're, paying for sex and everything else. So I would invite you, rather than feeling guilty about him. I mean, he's, yes, he has some brokenness, but yes, there is help. So what do you need to do if you prioritize you? What do you need to do to take care of you? And I would write those all down, and I would have support from your therapist, from your peer group, so that you can articulate those to your husband, so that when you're in front of him, you don't feel weak. You know that you've got this whole posse of people that are supporting you. And if you need to do it in front of a therapist, a qualified therapist, so be it, so that you go, these are my healthy boundaries. This is what I need to do. If he's willing to get the help and step into recovery, fantastic. But otherwise, like I said a little while ago, if you visualize, he's been doing this for 10 years,
Right.
10 more years from now, if he's doing the same thing, and unless he gets help, he will, are you okay with it? And if you are, which I don't think you are, because you're saying, I need to step away. So let's go back to, what support do you need to set those healthy boundaries and to have the support to hold them? Because a boundary isn't a boundary. First of all, it's a need. It's not about being punitive. It's about, this is what I need. So it's you taking care of you, and what support do you need to be able to tell him that, and then hold them, not let him run them over. So
And it's also about the caretaking part appears to be that I need to take care of him. I need to fix him. I need to do this. But you're in pain, and you've been in pain for all these years. And who's taking care of you? Nobody. Nobody.
right.
And we are not put on this earth to be living in pain every single day. If you have done the best you know how to do, then just make sure you focus on you, because you shouldn't be living in the pain like this. And unless he wants to change, it's not going to. But you can't rescue him. And we try to rescue one another as much as we can. We try to fix them. We try to make them better. But a lot of times we are the people that are standing back there, and we're not taking care of ourselves because we're still in that hurt and pain. So I know it's difficult. I know it. I I too, Tammy, I've been down the road. So and I thought I could change it. and just give it time. And I made promises, and you know what? It didn't make any difference. It made me worse until I found out how to get better. So I
Yeah.
wish, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You deserve to
Mhm.
have peace, have health, have a partner who is able to come alongside you and not, be unfaithful to you and hurt you. So someone in recovery can do that. Someone in active addiction cannot. So, okay, last question. This is from an SI graduate, so someone who's been to our treatment program, 10 group, and I have a couple CSAT. I need EMDR work, but it is most likely to be Zoom. Not a fan of this. Your opinions on remote versus face-to-face meetings. And so I've experienced both with EMDR. What are your thoughts? Because I know you do this work. So,
I have not done EMDR
oh,
virtually. I'll do, like, we don't sit down and do the long-term EMDR. So I've done safe place and worked with somebody to be in a safe place until they can connect up with an EMDR therapist. And I know that there's a lot of people that are doing it, and and but it has to be something that you bookend the beginning of the session and the end of the session, so that you're in there opening up a person, and then you have to put them back together again so that they can be safe when they walk out of there. And I know there's some very good ones out there. So I think it's up to the therapist and the client as to which way they want to go and how they feel safe. And also make sure that when you get off of a session, that you have somebody that you can call, somebody that you can see, just so they can check in and make sure that it's still processing. Because I believe EMDR is a process that's sort of like a 24-hour process. After you've done it, then you'll have other memories that can come up that can be great memories, or they can be memories that are sad. But I would book in a session, if you're doing virtual, with somebody that's going to check in on you, and you're going to check in with one another. So I think it's up to the therapist and the client for those decisions.
and I've had and I've done both with the same therapist, and it was
That's it.
pre-COVID and then COVID. So let me share a bit about. But I think if your individual CSAT does not do EMDR, then having, because you're not supposed to work with more than one therapist, but going in, like, that's a specialty, so you can, have your CSAT therapist speak with an EMDR professional. I put emdria.org. That's a directory, and you should be able to find somebody who does that process locally, even if they aren't qualified for sex addiction. So you can go get that work done and have that person, that therapist, report back to, your CSAT therapist. So, but because my therapist had done virtual with me, like she even helped me, like I can do it myself and go back to my good visual place. Like I still can do that and do that. Okay. In fact, I don't even have to do the tapping right now. I can go to the good
Take
visual. So,
place, take
so
place.
yeah, I honestly, maybe because I've used Zoom so much, but I find Zoom, like I would take Zoom EMDR over nothing. The major issue that I had, like, I'm not exaggerating. It was one session on that particular issue, and that issue has not come back to me. And
Mhm.
it was a years long stuff. So I have huge gratitude. There's brain spotting, which is the higher form of that somatic experience.
So
I
ask,
would
ask your,
do via Zoom over not do. I can tell you that. So
and ask your therapist if he or she knows of a good EMDR therapist. You're not going to leave the
mhm,
CSAT and leave that work.
right.
It's like taking a break and focusing on some of the trauma that's come up. So you still want to stay connected with your CSAT, and you can give permission for those two people to talk to one another. But most of the time, therapists will know other therapists that will do EMDR work or brain spotting, things like that, or hypnotherapy, and will know that, and then they can talk to one another to see what needs to be worked on. It's a good team.
Yes. Thank you, Karen. Thanks for all the questions, everybody. So Dr. Rob is out next week. So there is not any session. I'm going to be out for my dad's funeral. So we just canceled next week. So watch the calendar through the holidays. Things get a little different. So pay attention on the sexandrelationshiphealing.com. The events calendar is updated, to make note of any of those things. So thank you all. Join us again in 2 weeks. Dr. Rob will be back. So thanks, everybody. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. Really, truly, greatly. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.